Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It is the Friday news dump, the end of the week, and the end of all news, until Monday at least. This is Before Coffee, the father and daughter comprehensive news of planet Earth, where we look at the news 10 to 15 minutes before we start. Of course, today I think it was more like 30 minutes before we start, because we couldn't find any good stories out there, and we don't have any caffeine in our bodies. Let's look at these headlines we found. Today on Before Coffee, this is why Alzheimer's drug lecanemab will not be available in the NHS, and rainwater played an unexpected role in the origin of life on Earth.
And space station astronauts are looking to hitch a ride home.
Diamond in over a century is found in Botswana, a whopping 2,492 carats.
It's Friday's news dump. We have Indian Prime Minister visiting Ukraine, and Venezuelan Supreme Court weighs in on their election.
In culture news, it's the 35 years of the 650-kilometer freedom since the Baltic Way. And Vladimir Putin manipulated Donald Trump's ego insecurities, a new book says.
And it's Find Your Inner Nerd Day. Not clear what you're supposed to do when you find them, him or her. But when you find them, maybe say, "Hi, Inner Nerd." This is August 23rd, 2024 on Before Coffee. National Sponge Cake Day.
Sponge Cake Day. Delicious. Well, today we're doing a lot of news, and we're starting off with a shorter story about an Alzheimer's drug that is now hitting the UK, but it's not going to be available in the NHS. This is from Sarah McCannon, health writer at The Scotsman. Lecanemab, a drug that has been shown to slow down the progression of Alzheimer's disease, has been approved by use in the UK. This means people will not be able to access the treatment through the NHS at the stage. This medication has been approved for the NHS use. It is estimated that about 70,000 adults in England would have been eligible for treatment. Here's everything you need to know about lecanemab. It's a weird word, and I don't know how to pronounce. It's developed by a pharmaceutical company, Eisai, and sold under the brand name Leqembi, or lecanemab, has been shown to be efficient at slowing down Alzheimer's disease. The targeted antibody treatment binds to amyloid, a protein which builds up brains of people living with the condition. It is given to patients via an intravenous drip every 2 weeks, with NICE explaining that clinical trials showed it can slow cognitive decline by 4 to 6 months. However, there is little evidence on its long-term effects. So how much does it cost? Lecanemab is already licensed in the US, where according to the Alzheimer's Association, it costs $26,500,000 a year, which works out at approximately £20,000. But is that like their price they sent, or is that just the weird US prices, where they make something really expensive so they can get an insurance payout? Will it be available at the NHS? It is not available at this stage. In a draft guidance for the medication published by NICE on August 22nd, they stated that the benefits are too small to justify the cost. Helen Knight, Director of Medicine's Evaluation at NICE, explained, "For NICE to be able to be approved a medicine for use in the NHS, it must not only provide benefits to patients, but it must also represent a good use of NHS resources and taxpayers' money." Adding, lecanemab provides an average 4 to 6 months slowing in rate of progression from mild to moderate Alzheimer's disease, but this is just not enough benefit to justify the additional costs of the NHS. Responding to the news, the Alzheimer's Society said in a statement, "The MHRA's approval of the first safe and effective Alzheimer's disease treatment shown to slow progression is a defining moment for people with early on-stage Alzheimer's disease in the UK and a significant step towards a more hopeful future. While we welcome the MHRA approval, it is disappointing that NICE has not recommended approving lecanemab for use on the NHS at this stage. The news that lecanemab will be restricted to certain groups of patients will also lead to uncertainty for many people with Alzheimer's disease and their loved ones. We respect the decisions regulators have made. However, we know these announcements will bring a mix of emotions for those who have been waiting a long time since promising trial results were first announced. The NICE recommendation reflects the urgent challenges which must be addressed regarding how we diagnose and treat people with dementia. Pretty sure dementia and Alzheimer's are two different things, but maybe I'm wrong there. And also, I guess you can still get the drug in the UK, but it's just privately. You can't get it through the NHS, so it won't be, you can't get it through public health. You have to privately get it. You have to go buy the $26 or $26,000 or 20,000 pound drug yourself if you want to
Nice.
increase your evaluation, stop the slowing rate of your brain from, I guess, Alzheimer's disease. In other news, that story was way longer than it needed to be because of the disconnects, but we are looking at, and thank you, Outrageous, thank you for telling me that my audio cut off. This is about rainwater and the unexpected role it has in the origin of life on Earth. This is from Andrei Siru on Scientias. Without water, life as we know it would be impossible. A new study now sheds light on how water, specifically rainwater, may have played a key role in formation of the first prototype walls some 3.8 billion years ago. The study, conducted by scientists from the University of Chicago, the University of Houston, and the Chicago Center for Origin of Life, they got everyone on this, focused on so-called conservative droplets, small spheres filled with complex molecules such as proteins, lipids, and RNA. These droplets are often considered precursors to the first cells, but until now it was unknown how they evolved into full-fledged cells. Like, how'd that happen? A major problem in the study of these conservative droplets was that the RNA molecules within the droplets were exchanged too quickly, leading to a lack of differentiation and evolution, essential conditions for the origin of life. Aman Agrawal, one of the authors of the study, explains, if molecules are constantly exchanged between droplets, then after a short time they will all look the same. There'll be no evolution because you will end up with identical clones. The new research published in the Journal of Sciences Advances shows how such droplets have eventually managed to differentiate from each other. In their experiments, the scientists found that conservate droplets in distilled water developed a kind of skin. This skin made it more difficult for RNA molecules to exchange between the droplets. Ironically, this led to increased evolutionary pressure, because the limited exchange actually increased the opportunity for variation and mutation. Think about like how the sperm and the egg work, right? You have to fight to get an egg. It's not just accepting anybody. So because they have to fight to get through the skin in these droplets, right? They have to fight to get through the skin of these droplets. They are given opportunity to actually find different variations because certain variations will actually succeed in getting through the skin of the droplets. That's what they've said. Molecules now had hours or even days to evolve, compared to just minutes when the skin was not present. The discovery is important for understanding how life originated, but Agrawal didn't actually set out to investigate the origins of life. Early in his career, he tested droplets in distilled water from an engineer's perspective. The idea of using rainwater as a model to investigate the origins of cellular life only came later during a conversation with Matthew Turrell, a researcher who ultimately contributed to this new study. This led to further experiments in which not only distilled water, but also rainwater from the US state of Houston was tested. These experiments also showed how that mechanism worked. An important caveat is the exact chemical composition of primordial rainwater may be different from today's rain. The prototype cells Agrawal studied are also different from our early ancestors 3.8 billion years ago. Still, the results show that this physical mechanism could have played a role in early stages of life, he says. The molecules we use to build these prototype cells are just models until we find more suitable replacements. While the chemistry will be slightly different, the physics will be the same. Well, he is an engineer after all. Although this discovery sheds light on one of the previously unanswered questions, the origin of life on Earth remains a mystery. For example, it's still unknown how the first RNA molecules came into being. According to some theories, they rose spontaneously from a primordial soup of organic matter driven by chemical and physical processes on Earth. Reminder that RNA and DNA are made out of protein. That's what drives all this kind of stuff. So how a spiraled-like protein developed, they still haven't figured out how that happened. It's just luck, magic. Maybe God did it. Another theory suggests that building blocks of life did not originate on Earth, but came to Earth from space on meteorites or dust particles. Yeah, I know that theory as well. Hypothesis known as panspermia. I love that. Panspermia. Support for this theory comes from the discovery of organic molecules, including on meteorites and in interstellar dust clouds. We're actually aliens all along. Much research is still needed to confirm or disprove various theories as science continues to unravel the secrets of life. The gadget get closer to the truth. However, there's no guarantee that they will ever solve this question. The ultimate origin of life may retain a mystery forever. Sometimes that's just how it is. But there's my 2 stories for this Friday news dump. On to yours.
Okay. We're going back in outer space. Not really far in outer space, but up into the space station, where we have some astronauts that are trying to find a ride home. This is from thecrunch.com. NASA to decide Saturday whether astronauts will ride Boeing's Starliner home or use SpaceX's Dragon instead. This is from Arya Alamalhodai is the name of the report. NASA officials will announce their final decision on Saturday as to whether 2 NASA astronauts, Bush Wilmore and Sunita Williams, will return to Earth. Dry cough. Will return to Earth on Boeing's Starliner spacecraft or hitch a ride home on SpaceX instead. A decision that could have huge impact across the rapidly evolving space industry. Here's the backstory. Boeing launched its first crewed Starliner mission on June 5th for what's supposed to be an 8-day sojourn to the International Space Station. The mission is meant to be final crucial hurdle before the capsule is certified to conduct regular astronaut transportation flights to and from ISS. But in the final phase of its approach to the station, the Starliner spacecraft experienced a series of technical issues. The failure of several thrusters and helium leaks in the propulsion system. After about an hour's delay, engineers were able to bring the 4 of the 5 malfunctioning thrusters back online. There are 28 thrusters on the Starliner. But since that point, NASA and Boeing have been engaged in a root cause investigation into the issues, including data analysis of the thrusters on board the Starliner and ground testing of replica thrusters at White Sands Test Facility in New Mexico to study performance under conditions similar to what the spacecraft will experience when it departs the station. Our big concern is having successful deorbit burn, making sure that the propulsion system works just the way it needs to all the way through the deorbit burn, NASA Associate Administrator Ken Bowersox said during a press conference earlier this month. NASA has acknowledged that the officials inside the organization disagree on the correct course of action moving forward. Boeing, for its part, has made public proclamations on the safety of the Starliner and the thoroughness of the test campaign. Saturday's high-stakes decision will lay the debate to rest. If the agency determines that Starliner is not safe enough to fly home, it would undock from the space station empty, and Williams and Wilmore will return on board a SpaceX Dragon capsule. Starliner could still safely return to the surface autonomously in this scenario, but the optics aren't great, so sending back an empty space capsule because we're not sure of its integrity. NASA has already delayed the launch of the SpaceX Crew 9 mission to ISS by 1 month, up to September 24th. Williams and Wilmore would use that vehicle to return to Earth at the end of its stay on February 2025. If NASA determines that Starliner should return empty, NASA could put the 2 astronauts from Crew 9 manifest to make room for Williams and Wilmore to return. The other option on the table is for one Starliner astronaut to return with the Crew 8 and the other Crew 9, though this would be the first time SpaceX Dragon crews flew 5 crew members at one time. Unlike Starliner, Dragon has proved its bona fides in NASA. The search craft has become critical to the space agency as it is. Politics makes the use of Russia's Soyuz capsule and facilities impossible. Well, that's Russia's fault for invading other countries and pissing everybody off. SpaceX's Dragon completed its crew certification mission back in 2020 and has since conducted 8 crewed missions for NASA and a handful more private human spaceflight missions. Starliner is the only credible competition right now, and if it were removed from the board, Dragon would be even more in demand. NASA's leadership, including its head administrator Bill Nelson, will hold what is known as an agency-level review of the data, also called a flight readiness review, on Saturday and hold a press conference shortly after. Much is on the line for NASA and Boeing. Boeing has poured over $1.5 billion into its Starliner program, and it's unclear whether the aerospace giant would continue with this development should this test mission result in failure. NASA, for its part, has paid Boeing $4.2 billion over the years for development of the spacecraft, with hopes of having 2 commercial astronaut transportation providers online. If its decision Saturday results in one being discontinued, it could make for some awkward budget conversations. Either way, Saturday's decision will likely be seen as a watershed moment in privately developed spaceflight and public-private partnerships. Tune in at 10 a.m. Pacific time on Saturday for coverage. One more issue we have with this is pointed out by QZ.com. The stranded Boeing Starliner astronauts have another problem. This is from Ryan Eric King of Jalopnik. Problem-plagued Boeing Starliner currently docked at international space stations. If astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams were able to hitch a ride back to the Earth on SpaceX Crew Dragon, they would need new spacesuits. Boeing's BA intervehicular activity suits aren't compatible with SpaceX spacecraft, so that even further complicates things. Yeah, they get a ride back, but their spacesuits are not going to work inside the SpaceX capsule. The issue stemmed from NASA's selecting 2 winning bids for the commercial. We've already gone through this, Boeing and SpaceX. The space agency didn't specify that the IVA suits had to be cross-compatible with other systems. Oh, darn it! You can come home, but you got to wear somebody else's spacesuit, or maybe share one. I don't know. The hope was to keep the variety of options as broad as possible, Futurism explains. The reason for the incompatibility between SpaceX's and Boeing's suits is due to the nature of NASA's Commercial Crew Program, which funded the development of both Boeing's Starliner and SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft. For every era of space flight before this current one, NASA used a different model of procuring spaceships, explained Swapna Krishna from the YouTube channel Ad Astra in a recent explainer video, adding that NASA used to be deeply involved throughout the entire process. But with Commercial Crew, NASA allowed its private partnerships to design and innovate as long as the companies met NASA's broad requirements and safety standards, as well as reach specific milestones, one of which is a successful crewed test flight. Despite everything I just mentioned about the importance of IVA suits, NASA confirmed in a teleconference call that is considering flying Williams back without a suit as an incompatibility workaround. A safer solution also on the table is just to fly 2 spacesuits up to the SpaceX Crew 9 mission, which also featured 2 fewer passengers to accommodate the stranded astronauts return in 2025. There's your extensive, exhaustive update on this ISS space station. Back to you in Europe.
Okay, sorry to hear that's all happening. That's crazy. But just like we haven't figured out the origins of life, we haven't figured out how to perfectly go into space.
Right. Space travel comes with no guarantees.
Yep. You have to be, that's why only the most bravest people become astronauts, because you have to be ready to never come back, really. Realistically. Oh.
You gotta be fearless.
Okay, well, completely going over to something that has nothing to do with any of that. Let's talk about the biggest diamond in over a century to be found in Botswana. And I wonder what rich person is making the money from it. This is from Silmuxeta on AP News. Coming out of Gaborone, Botswana, the largest diamond found in more than a century has been unearthed at a mine in Botswana. And the country's president showed off this fist-sized stone to the world at a viewing ceremony yesterday on the 22nd of August. The Botswana government says the huge 2,492 carat diamond is the second biggest discovered in a mine, and it's the biggest diamond found since 1905. The as yet unnamed diamond was presented to the world at the office of Botswana's president Mokgweetsi Masasi it weighs approximately half a kilogram, and Masasi is one of the first to get a hold of it. "It is overwhelming," Masasi said. "I am lucky to have seen it in my time." Gasped and said, "Wow!" before calling a senior government officials over to take a closer look. Officials said it was too early to value the stone or decide how it would be sold. Another smaller diamond from the same mine in Botswana was sold for $63 million in 2016. A record for a rough gem. Wow, that's a lot. But who bought it? Tell me more details. This is history in the making. Nasima here, Botswana's managing director for Lucada Diamond Corp, a Canadian mining company that found the diamond. "I am very proud, and it is a product of Botswana." Lucada said in a statement on the 21st of August that it recovered the exceptional diamond from its Karowe mine in central Botswana. Lucada said it was a high-quality stone and was found intact. It was located using X-ray technology designed to find large, high-value diamonds. "We are ecstatic about the recovery of this extraordinary 2,492 carat diamond," Lucada president and CEO William Lamb said in a statement. The weight would make it the largest diamond found in 119 years, at least as far as records know. I'm sure maybe there's huge diamonds in the past. The second largest ever to be dug out of a mine after the Cullinan diamond that was discovered in South Africa in 1905. The famous Cullinan was 3,106 carats and was cut into gems, some of which form part of the British crown jewels. Ah, yes, the famous stolen jewels. That's our diamond. Where's our money for finding that diamond? Well, you were part of South Africa, was part of the UK back then, so. A bigger, less pure black diamond was discovered in Brazil in the late 1800s, but it was found above ground, believed to have been of a meteorite. Oh, doesn't count. It's from a meteorite. Well, it's still a huge diamond. Botswana, a country of 2.6 million people in southern Africa, is the biggest producer of natural diamonds behind Russia and has unearthed all the world's biggest stones in recent years. The Karowe mine has produced 4 other diamonds over 1,000 carats in the last decade. Before the discovery, the Sebule diamond, which was found at the Karowe mine in 2019, was recognized as the second biggest mined diamond in the world at 1,758 carats. It was bought by French fashion house Louis Vuitton for an undisclosed amount. Oh, come on. Not gonna tell us how much he sold the diamond for. The 11th carat Les de la Verona diamond, that's 1111. It's pretty, almost perfect. 4 ones carat Les de la Verona diamond, also from Botswana's Karowe mine, was bought by a British jeweler for $53 million in 2017. Another diamond from Karowe, the Constellation, was sold for the record $63 million. Diamonds are formed when carbon atoms are squeezed together under high pressure deep ground. I say most diamonds are at least 1 billion years old, and some of them more than 3 billion years old. Oh, and I think they're all made of dinosaurs, right? Or is that coal? Coal is made out of dinosaurs. Oil and
They just made a carbon.
Oil's made out of dinosaurs.
Carbon.
Well, carbon is everything. Really.
You plant carbon. Right. Anything living has carbon.
But there's my news story on the biggest diamond in a century. On to yours.
Right on. Okay. More news and international intrigue. We'll go to Kyiv, Ukraine, and this is from NDTV.com. India Prime Minister Modi's historic Ukraine visit, a hug and a handshake with Zelensky. Prime Minister Modi met with Vladimir Zelensky in the first ever visit to Ukraine by an Indian Prime Minister. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met President Zelensky on the first ever Ukraine, repeating the same thing over and over. Two leaders are scheduled to hold the one-on-one and delegation level talks and focus on ways to find and negotiate a settlement to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. We arrived in Kyiv from Poland on board a Rail Force One train that took around 10 hours, and the second and final leg of this two-nation trip. The Ukraine visit comes nearly 6 weeks after his high-profile trip to Russia, during which he had extensive talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin, largely with a focus on ending the conflict. PM Modi last met with Zelensky in June on the sidelines of the G7 summit in Italy's Apulia. In the meeting, he conveyed to the Ukrainian president that India would continue to do everything within its means to support a peaceful solution to the Ukraine conflict. The way to peace is through dialogue and diplomacy. He also told Mr. Zelensky that India believes the human-centric approach to finding a solution to the conflict in Ukraine. In that meeting, the Ukrainian president invited the prime minister to Kyiv. Earlier Thursday, He held talks with Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk and said the ongoing conflict in Ukraine and West India are a matter of deep concern and that a dialogue and diplomacy is a way forward to restore peace. This is his firm belief that no problem can be solved in the battlefield. Any crisis, loss of lives and innocent people can be the biggest challenge for the whole of humanity. So he's trying to be a peace negotiator as Russia is kind of reeling from their own invasion of Ukrainian troops. That doesn't mean Ukraine's winning by any means. That means they diverted a lot of Russian resources that they don't want to use inside their country, and they're probably not even going to defend these places because they'll just pull back their fences and say, hey, you can have those little towns. We don't care about them anyway. Which they'll do for a short term because they'll probably don't want to, like I said, reorganize scarce resources. This causes even more problems. In other international intrigue involving elections and stolen elections and questionable results, Venezuela. Yeah, Venezuela had one of their so-called elections recently, and now the Supreme Court has certified Maduro's claim they won. Venezuela, this is from APnews.com, no byline. Well, except Caucus, Venezuela. Venezuela's Supreme Court has backed President Nicolas Maduro's claims that he won last month's presidential election and said voting tallies published online showing he lost by a landslide were forged. The ruling is the latest attempt by Maduro to blunt protests and international criticism that erupted after he contested a July 28th vote in which the self-proclaimed socialist leaders was seeking a third six-year term. The High Court is packed with Maduro loyalists and that almost never ruled its government. Its decision, read Thursday in the senior officials and foreign diplomats, came in response to a request by Maduro to review the total showing he had won by more than 1 million votes. The main opposition coalition is Maduro of trying to steal the vote. To a per game on election day, opposition volunteers managed to collect copies of voting tallies from 80% of the 30,000 polling booths nationwide, which showed opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez by more than 2-to-1 margin. The official tally sheets printed by each voting machine carry a QR code that makes it for anyone to verify the results and are almost impossible to replicate. An attempt to judicialize the results doesn't change the truth. We won overwhelmingly, and we have the voting records to prove. Gonzalez, standing for Venezuelan flag, said in a video posted on social media. High Court's ruling certifying the results contradicts the findings of experts from the United Nations and the Carter Center who were invited to observe the election, which both determined the results announced by authorities lacked credibility. Specifically, the outside experts noted that a party didn't release a breakdown of the results by each of the 30,000 voting booths as they have in almost every previous election. The government has claimed without evidence that a foreign cyber attack staged by hackers with Macedonia delayed the vote counting election and publication of the disaggregated results. Gonzalez was the only one of 10 candidates who did not participate in the Supreme Court audit, a fact noted by the justices who, in their ruling, accused them of trying to spread panic. The former diplomat and his chief backer, Maria Corina Machado, went into hiding after the election as security forces arrested more than 2,000 people cracked down in demonstrations that erupted spontaneously throughout the country protesting the results. Numerous foreign governments, including the U.S., as well as several allies of Maduro, have called on authorities to release full breakdown results. Gabriel Boric, the leftist president, one of the main critics of Maduro's election gambit, lambasted the High Court this certification. Today, Venezuela's DSJ has finally consolidated the fraud, he said on his social media account, referring to the initials of the High Court. The Maduro regime obviously welcomes with enthusiasm its ruling. There's no doubt that we are facing a dictatorship that falsifies elections. There's your update on Venezuela. Maduro's still clinging to power with his phony Supreme Court, and I don't have a video, so maybe we'll just gavel this one out today.
Okay.
Find anything.
You wanted to gavel?
All right, man, that's it. Yeah, we'll just gavel it out.
Okay.
You got the video. All right, back to you.
Okay, for culture news, we're going to go over a short little mark of 35 years since the Baltic Way. This is on your news culture. The anniversary of a peaceful yet powerful political demonstration. Friday's special commemorative event, which is today, the 23rd of August, in Vilnius, will feature over 200 performers from across the Baltics. August 23rd, 1909, around 2 million people joined hands to form a human chain of 690 kilometers from Vilnius through Riga all the way to Tallinn. The largest unbroken chain in history. The Baltic Way, or Baltic Chain, was a show of solidarity between Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania in protest against Soviet occupation. Time to coincide with the 50th anniversary of Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, which divided Eastern Europe into German and Soviet spheres of influence. Marking the 35th anniversary of this monumental demonstration of unity, the 650-kilometer of freedom concert will be packed performances with acts including Lithuania's state folk ensemble, Lietuva, National Symphony Orchestra, and new wave electronic band Happy Endless, Latvia's state choir and folk pop band Patumitas, and acclaimed Estonian singer and violinist Marjanut. In exchange of the musical arrangements is Lithuania's trombonist, composer, and conductor Žervaras Gaskinis, who took part in the Baltic Way as a band in arms. Oh, that's so cool. It is difficult to understand how it was possible to rally 2 million people for one common goal: freedom. I can only remember myself in a free Lithuania. I feel extremely grateful to people who fought to give us freedom we have today, he says. The Baltic Way was a beautiful and powerful way to start the independence story of the 3 Baltic states and to fight what was happening at the time exactly 35 years ago. The concert gives us a chance to reflect, but also to celebrate where we are today. That's right. This another proof I know we did like an article a few months back about how peaceful protests are the most prominent changes in what happens in your country or in the world is peaceful protest. This is a great example of that. 2 million people just holding hands for 650 kilometers, and the Soviet Union said, you know what? Yeah, whatever. That's just, who cares? It's too much trouble keeping all these people locked and tied in our sphere of influence. They don't even want part of us. So, yeah, congratulations for 55 years of being a free Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. Now, speaking of Soviet influence, let's talk about Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. That's right, from Richard Luscombe on The Guardian. Vladimir Putin exploited Donald Trump's ego and insecurities, who exerted an almost mesmeric hold over the former U.S. president, who refused to entertain any negative evaluation of the autocratic Russian leader from his own staff, and also fired his security advisor, H.R. McMaster, over it. The bold assessment of Trump's fealty to Putin comes in McMaster's book, Art of War with Ourselves, My First Duty in the Trump White House, published by HarperCollins and writing on the 27th of August. After over a year in this job, cannot understand Putin's hold on Trump. McMaster recalls saying in the memoir covering the turbulent 457 days that the now retired general served as National Security Advisor from February 2017 until he was effectively fired by a tweet in April 2018. The comment McMaster's Whitegate came in the aftermath of the poisoning in the UK by Putin's agents of Sergei Skripal, a Russian former intelligence officer, and his daughter in March 2018. While other Western leaders were beginning to formulate a strong response to the assassination attempt, McMaster says Trump said in the White House, fawning over the New York Post article with the headline, Putin heaps praise on Trump, pans U.S. politics. Trump, according to the book, wrote an appreciative note on the article with a black Sharpie and asked McMaster to get clipping to Putin. Concerned that Putin used Trump's annotated clip to embarrass him and cover for the attack, McMaster writes. He said he handed a note to the White House office of the Secretary, which handles Oval Office communications. Later, as evidence mounted that the Kremlin, and very likely Putin himself, had ordered the nerf agent attack on Skripal, I told them not to send it. In reality, McMaster says Putin's parent simpering over Trump was a calculated effort by the Russian leader to exploit the president and drive a wedge between him and the hawkish fighters in Washington, D.C., such as McMaster urging the U.S. to take a harder line with the Kremlin. Putin, a ruthless 4KGB operator, played the Trump ego insecurities with flattery, McMaster writes. Putin had described Trump as a very outstanding person, talented, without any doubt. Trump had revealed his vulnerability with this approach, his affinity for strongmen, his belief that he alone could forge a good relationship with Putin. Like his predecessors, George W. Bush and Barack Obama, Trump was overconfident in his ability to improve relations with the dictator and the Kremlin. The fact that most foreign policy experts in Washington advocate for a tough approach to the Kremlin seemed only to drive the president to the opposite approach. Bring the swamp, of all intelligence. McMaster described how he became obsessed by the Mueller report into Russian meddling in 2016 presidential election to the point that discussions of Putin and Russia were a difficult path. He says Trump connected optics involving Russia to the report. Allegations by Democrats and other opponents that campaign and Trump personally had colluded with Russian disinformation campaigns to swing the election. Although special counsel Mueller found no evidence of a criminal conspiracy, he found multiple instances in which the Trump campaign tried to obscure its contact with Russian operatives that Trump himself tried to interfere with or block the inquiry. That's always suspicious when you block an inquiry. When McMaster observed at a security conference in February 2018 in Munich that Mueller had indicted more than a dozen Russian agents for election interference, Trump tweeted a snarky response that the general had failed, pointing out that election results had not been changed or affected by the Russian efforts. It was one of a number of broadsides from Trump that signified an increasingly fractured relationship with McMaster, almost all over Russia, that resulted in his ouster barely a month later. His ouster. Putin in Russia had been swimming upstream with the president from the beginning, writes McMaster, whose successor as National Security Advisor John Bolton also ended up falling out with the president and become one of the numerous former administrative officials to condemn Trump's re-election effort. There's just a little reminder for you there, guys. There's people who work for the guy who are like, please, don't do this. Do not vote for this guy. It's a mess. McMaster recalls another episode in which he was cascaded by Trump in the July 2017 site in Hamburg, Germany, which became famous for what The Guardian describes as the time of a budding romance between U.S. and Russian leaders as they spent hours locked in private conversation. A basic message for the final prep meeting at the Hamburg Mess Convention Center was, do not be a chump, McMaster writes. No, they told the president open thought, including the U.S. to abandon Ukraine and withdraw U.S. forces from Syria and Afghanistan, which Trump later ordered. And now look at Afghanistan. This completely turned over to the Taliban. Told Trump when I did Bush and Obama, Mr. President, he is the best liar in the world. As that Putin was coming, he played Trump and get what he wanted, sanctions relief. And the U.S. has Syria and Afghanistan on the cheap, but by manipulating Trump with ambiguous promises of better relationship. He would offer cooperation on counterterrorism, cybersecurity, and arms control. I told that Trump was being impatient with my negative vibe. I said what I needed to say. He was going to be contrary. I hoped he would be contrary to the Russian dictator, not to me. Despite the strained relationship with Trump chronicled in his book, the criticism of the former president therein, McMaster never joined the ranks of other former administration officials eager to cascade him to left office. I'm pretty sure he's cascading him right now in his book. McMaster remained apolitical during service, looking out only for the interests of the U.S. and wrote in the book to get past the hyperpartisanship and explain what really happened. The family members joined him in his office on his last day in April 2018, and then the Vice President Mike Pence invited them all to separately into the Oval Office. Trump was gracious to me, Pastor Rice. He pointed his finger at me, he said, Nappy, your uncle, big guy, you're tough and did a fantastic job for me. Make sure you only write nice things about me. Well, sorry, he didn't write nice things about you. So there is your small little input on what Trump was doing in 2017, 2018 when he came to Putin, greased him all up, and just took advantage, and yeah, he left Syria and Afghanistan, and I'm sure that was great. I mean, I personally am not pro international putting our feet in other people's business, but we also put the Taliban there to begin with, so it kind of is the responsibility of the Western powers to solve that problem, because they put them there, right? They only exist because we give them weapons to begin with, especially Russia also, I think, gave them weapons. So it's kind of just like, yeah, it sucks, and I'm not surprised, and there is your big details. I'm sure if you want to read, no worries, we can read the book At War With Ourselves, and if you want to read about that kind of stuff.
There's a book, but nobody can see that commission. That's what pisses me off, right? All these General Kelly, General McMaster, General Mattis, right? All the Trump administration, all the books, right? All said Trump's dangerous, Trump's this and that. They could have got up and said, hey, we have a different way to do things. So they didn't. There's military night last night at the Democratic National Convention. It was a lot of military, but they were all basically congressmen already. But like there's a couple, like overwhelmingly, like they should. Like they're going, hey, this guy's really fucking dangerous. But silence. Just read your book, make your money. Anyway, that's my problem with those clowns. You first you're doing the administration, you think, oh yeah, we're doing good things. First of all, it's error judgment. And then while you're there, you're a mouthpiece for them, right? Especially Kelly. And then Kelly, as soon as he's out, I can't wait for a book, make a little money, and then go sign again. Whatever. I have a problem with the opportunities. And on to the history, it's national, on to the state history, it's the national data. On this day in 1514, Ottomans wanted the secretary of the Safavids, Iran in the battle of Chaldiran. I don't know what it is, wines over it. Chaldiran, I don't pronounce it. 1859, English book critic and Ernest the early work of many great English writers of the 1890s and in journals, was born in Walter. 1926, the celebrated motion picture actor Rudolph Valentino died suddenly at age 41, prompting widespread public grief from his fans. So Rudolph Valentino died at this age, this date in 1926. 1927, Valentino is what they call somebody who supposedly to this day. 1997, Italians Nicola Sacco and Bartolomeo Vanzetti were executed for murder in Massachusetts despite a mishandled trial and a widespread belief that they were innocent. Back in the day when Italians were outsiders, they had to be dealt with, right? That was 1927. 97 years ago, 1939, and the Germany and the Soviet Union signed the non-aggression pact, giving Eastern Europe the German and Soviet spheres of influence. Big fuck up by Stalin. 1973, a botched bank robbery in Stockholm resulted in a hostage situation. Over the course of 60 stand-up captives formed an unlikely bond with their captor, giving what? The Stockholm syndrome, right?
Oh, okay.
Sorry, your audio went out. Okay. 1978, the state American basketball player Kobe was born in Philadelphia, so happy birthday news around. The first season of the U.S. version of the reality starting over. The first season of the U.S. version of the reality TV game show was written, with Richard Hatch being wrestler. Usually popular started launching reality TV fad in the early 20th century, which I do hope is over now. 2011, after Rebel Forces captured the town in Tripoli, Omar al-Gaddafi's Fort ruled to be ended. All his whereabouts were initially unknown. He was discovered 2 months later in the Libyan city of Sirte and killed. So it was game over for Gaddafi on this day, 13 years ago. Our future Wallace was executed on this day on 1305. Yes, guy did.
That's in power, man. Huh? That's in power, rest in power,
Yeah, right. Yes, he immortalizes the Braveheart. By Nelson. On this day, in London, William Wallace is a good reason condemned for leading Scottish resistance forces against the first year-long ultimately successful struggle to free Scotland from English rule. Ultimately successful? Yeah, for a while. That Intervention Act, though. And Baron Jacques Couillet, French zoologist, born August 23rd, 1769, in Montpellier, France, died on May 13th, 1832 in Paris, age 62. He was a zoologist. That's a very good zoologist back in those days, I'm not sure. Other birthdays today, Gene Kelly, American actor and director. Mary Paul Moore of Jordan, born in 1951. Oh, sorry, Guest was born in 1996. Gene Kelly was born in 1912. And National Day of Canada is National Ride the Wind Day. Maybe play that Christopher Cross song, ride like the wind. Okay, you might know that one. But it's Ride the Wind Day, and picture some guy in a suit fight, which I don't think is real. I don't think you can get maximum stand after it. But he's funny. It's Sponge Cake Day, and it's National Cuban Sandwich Day, so I don't know anything sandwich. I want any sandwich, actually. It's find your inner. Sandwich with sponge cake, that's how they do. Find your inner. It's almost 4th for Friday, August 23rd, 2024, on the 4 Cuban sandwiches.
All right. What's the ingredients of a Cuban sandwich? Maybe I'll make one.
Anything you just gotta flatten it with a iron. Get your bread, your cheeses, or your so forth. Take the top of those down, and then put like a big old hanger down on it.
Yeah.
And you steam it flat.
Perfect.
That's how it is. Picture here has one being fluffy. Cuban sandwich that I smashed.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons. And follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.